This episode of Mental Notes Podcast is sponsored by Music Cares.
A friend and ally of the music community, Music Cares was established by the Recording Academy to safeguard the health and well-being of all music people.
A 4-star charity and safety net in times of need, Music Cares offers confidential preventative, recovery, and emergency programs to address financial, medical, and personal health issues.
Through the generosity of their donors and volunteer professionals, their dedicated team works across the country to ensure the music community has the resources and support it needs.
For more information, visit musiccares.org.
Hey, this is Mike Barami.
And Nicole Slater.
And you're listening to the Mental Notes Podcast, episode number 3.
With Bill Smith, the most generic name in music.
Yeah, but the most genuine guy.
Yeah, he's very humble. We really love him. We really enjoyed the experience of interviewing him because he has so many one-liners. And get this, so he's Grammy nominated. He's a recording engineer, mixer, and producer.
Yeah.
Got 30 years of experience. And, you know, to our listeners, you might recognize some of these names. Megadeth, Gladys Knight, Queen Latifah, Anita Baker, George Benson, Whitney Houston, Diana Krall, New Edition, one of my favorites. I'm sure he's got some stories about Bobby Brown that he's been sworn to secrecy. One of your favorites, Grandmaster Flash.
Taking it back.
Yeah, for sure, your childhood. And John Fogerty and Barbara Streisand.
Yeah,
Barbara.
some big shooters. And Bill definitely is a heart-centered individual. He tells it like it is. And in this interview, you are going to hear that. Some of that sage wisdom.
Yeah, that New York one-liners. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Bill knows himself, and it's very evident.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. We had a little metaphysical movie night the other night. We watched The Matrix. And there's this moment where Neo walks into the Oracle, and there's a sign in Latin that says, "Know thyself."
Yep, right over there.
And afterwards, we kind of had this conversation about how important it really is to know yourself. And it's obviously a lifelong process. But when you know who you are and your values, and you know the basics, you have a strong foundation, and you can't be swayed by the tides. And especially in the music industry, I think it's really easy to get swayed one way or the other.
It is. It's taking you and throwing all of these things, different ideals, different standards your way. And if you don't know who you are, you tend to get tripped up. You get, like I used to, I stifled myself with all the possibilities and kind of suffered from the analysis paralysis, as it's called. And I ended up not doing a lot of things because I couldn't see a clear, definitive path to that goal. And, it happened in my teens for sure. Who am I to know who I am in my teen years?
Yeah.
And through my 20s, I kept doing it. It took a lot of work to get past it. But once you know who you are, the doors open up. And really, if you just stick to your guidelines and know who you are, you're going to achieve those goals.
Absolutely.
So on that note, here is episode number 3 of the Mental Notes Podcast with our friend Bill Smith. Bill Smith, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Let's start off. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New York City.
You don't say.
I don't say. Yeah, I do say, actually.
So in what borough it was?
New York City, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island. My family was scattered all over all of them. So I pretty much grew up in between each of them, spent a lot of time there.
So how did you determine that you were in love with music or that you wanted to work in music?
I didn't determine it.
It determined you?
Pretty much.
What's the story?
When did that come into play?
There is no story. People ask me all the time, how did you choose this for a career? How did you choose this for what you were going to do with your life? And I just look at them and say, oh, I didn't choose it, really. It was just the only thing that was ever there. It was the only thing that ever attracted me. I never really thought or considered anything else. Most people sit down and think about what they want to do with their lives. I never did that.
You just kind of went into it.
I just was into it.
So was it like your first job, or did you kind of...
No, I mean, my first job was the same, it depends on what age you're talking about.
Right, at a young age,
right?
I mean...
At a young age, I was a busboy at a restaurant when I was 13 and 14
like
years
college
old.
Or,
paper route and things like that. Well, sure. In college, I already knew what I was doing by high school years, I knew what I was doing by the time I was 13 years old, more or
What?
less. Well, sure. All my other friends would be out playing ball in the street, and I was up in my bedroom with a Tascam cassette 4-track recorder, making weird tapes and reading the backs of record covers and credits. And like I said, it was never a conscious choice or decision. It was just,
It just seems like a natural progression almost.
it didn't even seem like it. It was.
It just was. Yes, exactly.
He was just in the flow.
In the flow.
That's
There you
just what it was. There just, like I say, there was just never anything else really ever considered. And college I went to because it was a good thing. My father wanted me to do it. I wanted to do it. It was, I had a great time, great experience. It was in a certain way just waiting to get into what I wanted to do. Even during those years, I was I went to a college called Marist in Poughkeepsie. So even during those years, the last 2 years and stuff, I was already driving up to Bearsville Studios, up in Bearsville, up there on the weekends and hanging around and interning, so to speak, and that kind of thing. So I was already, putting myself into the environment and things like that. And then, I think the week after I graduated college, I enrolled in like an audio course or the equivalent, whatever they had back then, the dinosaur version of, an audio course at a place called the Center for Media Arts in New York City on 23rd Street. It was a 6-month course. I lasted 3 months in it. It was, pay every quarter kind of thing. Maybe it was a year-long thing or something. You paid every quarter. At the end of the first quarter, the instructor said to me, have you paid for your next 3 months? I said, no. And he said, great. Meet me here tomorrow at noon. When I did, and walked me around the corner to a place called Secret Sound on 24th Street.
Oh, yeah.
And 7th Ave in Manhattan. That was Todd Rundgren's old studio, The Secret Sound. He did a lot of early Todd Rundgren records and Utopia stuff and things like that. And I think Moogie Klingman was also involved with Todd in the studio. And that's it. He walked me in the door and got me my first gig. I guess Gene Perlow is the gentleman's name. I guess he realized I was...
You didn't need the class.
You were a bit ahead.
Sitting in his class was not doing me any great favors or anything like that. That here you just need to go and be in it.
Well, what was that like? Just going from that to all of a sudden you're
A
just
professional.
placed in there.
It was great. I loved it. It's not like all of a sudden you're sitting behind a console doing records.
Of
You're
course.
going to get people's
Runner.
lunch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How good is that coffee?
You're answering phones. Sure.
Dusting. Yeah.
That's how it goes. That's how it starts,
But that's the way you learn, and that's the way that you demonstrate responsibility. And I've heard this a lot from studio managers. If I can't trust you to get someone's order right, how the hell am I going to trust you to run a $500,000 console with clients that are bringing a lot of money if you can't just simply get an order for a sandwich?
They don't. That's the answer. They don't.
Yeah.
You don't progress.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, that's a lot of the stuff a lot of the younger people today don't necessarily realize. They think, at least in the early stages of your career, and it continues, I think, further on and all the way through it, but at least in the early stages of your career as you're getting up and going. These days, with all the recording schools and, I can watch it on YouTube and this and that, Pro Tools, a million plugins, I can do all, I think they tend to get lost thinking that it's the technology and their ability to twist knobs.
Right.
That is what's going to get them a 30, 40, 50-year career doing this. And
They just need to know how to make beats.
Yeah.
That's the way to success.
Well, for some of them, God bless them, but for the majority of us, it's really based in trust. Yeah. As you say, if you can, it's even if I could trust you to show up on time each day. Let's start there, okay? Before I can even trust you to get the lunch order right. If you can show up on time.
Yeah, you're ahead.
Okay, and be responsible enough to even do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and show up on time coherent, not looking like you just rolled out of bed smelling like the night before. And if you can do that, then we'll let you get the lunch orders. If you can do that, then we'll let you answer the phones, and et cetera, et cetera.
Work your way up.
Eventually you get in a room.
Your way up. Eventually.
Yeah.
You get in a room. If you're patient.
Yeah.
and you're hardworking and you're diligent and you don't take anything for granted and you make sure you continue to do the best you can at all times and you're appreciative to be there and happy to be there and you understand this is the road as well. And patience is a virtue and youth is not necessarily known for its patience, right?
Yeah.
So if you
I'm the
can
most patient person I know. What are you guys talking about?
if you can get that stuff together,
Yeah.
you're at
Oof.
least you're on the right route.
Yeah, the dedication it takes and that work
Work
ethic,
ethic.
you exhibit that
Sure.
and you craft it more as you go and you're able to be a more responsible person. People see that and like you said, they kind of open up the next level for you to come in and you start all over.
Right. Well, doing this is work. It's a job.
It's a job.
Of course.
Mhm.
It's not hanging out with the stars and commiserating. And people think it is.
Yeah.
If I had a quarter for every young guy I've seen come through studios who thought that's what it was and left 3 months later when they realized that it was endless 12, 13, 14-hour days
Yeah.
of constant work, hard, dedication, hard
Mhm.
work, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Pleading for a day off just so I can do my laundry, because I've run out of clean socks. And
Right.
even on those days, it's like, well, just pick some up on your way
Right.
in, okay? Because we need you.
Yeah. No personal life, like outside of it.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's hard to
No.
have a relationship and have the family, have the kids, have all these extra things that you see your friends having. But when you're working 16-hour days, it's hard to find that balance.
Mhm.
It's impossible in many ways.
What kind of music were you making? Like
Everything.
give it just for the listener, like what projects were you working on in the late 80s? What kind of music was popular that you were working on?
All kinds of stuff. Jazz records, hip hop, rap. I mean, I've worked on jazz records with Lainey Stern all the way to CNC Music Factory with, Colin Clavillis to the last thing I did before I left New York City was record a Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5
Whoa.
album, so
Wow. Yeah.
all the way back to, old school
Yeah.
rap days. Everything, same, it's whatever is on the plate that day, pretty much,
You're there to make it sound better.
Well, you're there to service your client.
Yeah.
Really, even more than to make it sound better. If you can achieve that, that's perfect and that's wonderful and that's the best of all worlds. But ultimately, your role in the room each day is in a service capacity, right? You're there to help someone else achieve their goals, achieve whatever their vision is in their head for what they want to get done. If you can get some personal satisfaction out of that, that's wonderful. That's gravy as far as I'm
But that is not the
concerned.
number one
No,
objective.
of course not. Of course not. You're hired by a client and you're paid by a client for the skills you bring, obviously, and the things you can bring to it. But ultimately, those things are in service of the needs of someone else.
I think that's
Right.
so important in life and in general, but especially to understand what the role of an engineer is in service. And I think a lot of young kids that are coming up through, these tech schools or recording schools, they're like, I want to put my stamp on it. I want, like when I'm mixing or mastering, I want to put so it's my that I have
Yeah.
my stylistic, thing on it. And I'm
Right.
like, whoa,
Which is funny, which is actually adverse and the opposite of what I learned
yes.
way back when, which is in many ways, the ultimate goal is to not have a stamp.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Okay. The ultimate goal is to represent the sound of what's happening naturally. I mean, these days, yes, because records can and are made one track at a time. Okay. A lot of times in somebody's bedroom. So yes, you can do that sort of a thing, right? But back when I was starting all of this, it was a bunch of guys in a room who all played for the most part at the same time. Yeah, you might overdub the vocals and the guitars, but for the majority of things, it all went down together.
Yeah.
And your role was to capture that, to capture a moment in time.
That energy is unique when everyone's playing
Right.
together in a room.
Absolutely. And that to me is what creates the music and the record and things like that, that emotion.
Mm.
You know, technical perfectionism is a wonderful thing. It's highly overrated, however. Anything that's
Hmm.
perfect is inherently boring in many ways.
Yes.
Okay, right? There's no character to it. There's no right something to draw you in. To me, it's the flaws is where you find the magic
Right.
more than
It's
in
not on the grid every time. It sits back in the pocket and then it
or it
pushes
moves
forward.
ahead.
Yeah.
Exactly. That to me is where you find that's where God lives. Is in the imperfections. That's the thing that makes each thing unique and individual in and of itself, right?
Yep.
So, again, like I say, when I was taught back then, it was more about capturing a moment in time. You want everything to sound a certain way and then obviously to get it the best you can be. But were you looking to leave your own sort of stamp upon it? Some ways, if you have a certain sort of sound you can get in that thing, yes,
Yeah.
that's wonderful, but you would never interrupt something to say, oh, I need to patch in this particular thing, or I want to turn
Mhm.
this knob, or whatever. Too bad, buddy. Right?
We're not stopping.
We're
This
not
is
stopping.
boom.
Right.
Exactly. Because what you're doing isn't what's going to sell the record in many ways.
Right.
Even these days, the engineering end of it and the technical end of it and all that. These days it maybe has more to do with it just because of the way and the nature of how music can be constructed these days. Okay, that the technical aspect definitely applies more in certain ways to the construction of music, but ultimately I don't think that's what sells records. I don't think people listen to or enjoy music or are drawn into it because of that. They're drawn into it on an emotional level.
Absolutely.
Immediately, it's a guttural, instinctual thing. Can I tap my foot to it? Can I wiggle my butt to it?
Does it pull something like, does it strike something in me that I
Well,
can relate to? Yeah.
Or an old
sure.
memory, a lot of times
Well,
music for
that
me brings me back to a certain memory or certain feeling or certain thing that happened, even if it's a new song.
You're working numerous hours per day and you're doing this for an extended amount of time, many years in New York. How does that take a toll? Did you burn out at all at one point, or did you just I love this so much, I'm good?
you don't burn out when you're young. When you're young, you got a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and you're made of rubber. So no, you don't. I lived in the studio. I loved
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
It wasn't work.
You were doing what you love.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't work to me. It
Yeah.
was just an extension of what I love. I never saw it as a grind or, any of that 9 to 5 kind of.
Got it.
I couldn't care less, man. I was in the studio going, wow, man, look
Right.
at this, man. This is great.
Yeah. What brought you to make the jump to the West Coast?
The want and desire to keep moving up the ladder of success. New York is great. You can only do so many things in New York, more or less based on the size of the studios. Right back then, there was a boatload of studios in New York, and it was very easy to get from one to the other because they were all just on the other side of town. Right, it wasn't like Los Angeles where you get in your car and you drive for 2 hours and
And you
5 blocks.
listen to the
You've-
Mental Notes
you've
podcast while you're
gone,
driving.
yeah, and you've only gone 6 miles, right? So it wasn't that, but I came to realize quickly I couldn't learn a lot of things there. I couldn't learn how to record big orchestras, 70, 80-piece orchestras, because there was nowhere to work on that kind of stuff in New York. New York, all the studios were in giant office buildings, big buildings with,
Yeah.
right? The
Right.
ceiling height is only
Yeah.
X size.
You got all these
and-
scoring stages out here built for it.
Right, exactly. Real estate was at a premium. You couldn't just all of a sudden put up a giant big room in the middle
Yeah.
of Manhattan and that kind of thing. So the want to learn that kind of stuff, big band recording, just to expand the things I was exposed to in terms of that. Plus, also, this is the center of the music industry. So if it's your want and your desire to do it for your life and to be the best you can be and to want to work with the best, inevitably you want to consider making the move.
Was it hard
out here? No.
You didn't weigh out. Did you just sort of decide, okay, this day I'm going?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
I didn't even have a place to live.
Really?
I didn't have a job. I had nothing. No, I just
Bill Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I just
Was it hard?
went. It wasn't. Again, I was
Not the
Didn't
normal.
overthink
I
it.
was 25 years old. It was a great adventure. Well, there was nothing difficult about it. The most difficult part about it was sleeping a couple of nights sitting up in the car and on off the side of the freeway in Texas.
Wow.
And that
So
kind
you
of
rolled
thing.
into town. Did you have any friends out here?
No, nobody.
Of course not. And just
I didn't know a soul. I had nowhere to live. I had no job. I had nothing.
Any call ahead or any job prospects, nothing. So you came out here and you're like, all right, I'm here now. Let's begin.
he burned the
pretty
boats.
much. Yeah.
That's exactly it. He did.
Well, I didn't, again, I was 25. At that point, I had spent, 5 years living in the studios in New York City. I didn't own anything.
I mean, you're fearless at that point.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Pretty much. And there is something, Nicole, you said burn the boats,
Yeah,
right?
if you're going to take over the
Well,
take over the island, you got to burn the boats. So
There
there can't be
there is something to be said about that too. Same, what did Columbus do when they discovered the New World? First thing they did was burn the boats. There's no going back. You have to make it work. Now you are forced to survive.
No
Wow.
excuses.
Right? So, it's succeed or die. Pick one, right? Which one are you going to head for? So, no, I didn't. I just threw, again, I didn't own anything. I owned 3 guitars and a 19-inch color TV. And that's it. And I put the 3 guitars in the trunk and 2 big bags of clothes and the 19-inch TV, rode shotgun the whole way. And I got a map.
So
and
what year
drove,
was this?
man.
What year?
1989.
All right. So 89.
I think I had a friend that lived up north in Watsonville,
Ooh.
California,
That's not
which
close.
is no, it's not. But at least it was
Things got bad.
a slight bit of an anchor. No, I mean, well, what I did is I drove out here and I just went up to his place,
Mhm.
dropped off the TV, the guitars, all that kind of stuff. Spent a day or two just kind of hanging with him, a friend I'd known from college, and then I just got in the car and drove down here for a week, 5 days, whatever it was, and just drove around. Where is everything? Where is Hollywood? Where is
Familiarized. Got the
Santa
vibe.
Monica? Where is this? Yeah, and I just slept in the back of the car. And there's a Catholic church off of the Coanga there in the 101. Okay, and just drove into the back parking lot,
I
and
know exactly where that is.
that's what I did for 4 or 5 nights straight, just all the way in the back corner, and just kind of kicked it, crashed in the back seat for a couple hours, and got up and did it again just to kind of get my sea legs, and then drove back up to Watsonville to take a shower and
Report back.
get a decent meal and all that kind of stuff. And then it was just finding a place to live, again. And that was that sort of first week down here looking for, okay, where's apartments? Where's scoping out the neighborhoods a little bit? Right.
What's close to the studios?
What's around, right? And that. So I kind of got all that information, put a couple of applications in for apartments, which I was lucky enough to get one. Needed to get some money happening, obviously. So I got a gig delivering pizzas.
All right.
Straight away, just to get some cash in my
There you
pocket.
go. Do what you got to
And
do. Yeah.
While I was doing that, I was passing out resumes to studios and stuff like that. And I think a month and a half later, I got a call from the guys over at Cherokee on Fairfax Avenue.
Yeah.
Right. And they offered me a job, and that's it. Off you go. For me, it wasn't that difficult at all. A lot of people look at me and they're like, wow, I couldn't never have done that.
Well, yeah, you couldn't.
I couldn't do it. Well, that's, you don't say that, but sometimes I think that.
That's rude, Mike. Don't say that.
No, well, there's something to be said for it. Yes, absolutely. You don't verbalize that to them, but in the back of your mind, you think, no, you're probably right. You probably couldn't do it, and you probably couldn't do it because you already think you can't.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the thread between everything that you've really said today, is that you just didn't even have the idea or the thought, the notion of self-doubt, or that you couldn't do it. You're 25, you just jump in the car and you just do it.
Yeah. There didn't seem to be that doubt.
Sometimes thinking is overrated in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Thinking makes you do just that. Think. And the minute you begin to think, the minute you begin to find all the reasons that maybe things won't work.
So where do you think that
And
confidence level came from? Because you have this that it just innate.
Yeah.
in many ways, not yes and no, but from my father, mostly, to be frank with you. You know, I mean, when I was a kid, that's about the only thing my father ever said to me. From the time I was, 7 years old till I was 15,
Mhm.
the guy followed me around. You can do anything you want. Believe in yourself. Nobody stops you but you, right? You
Wow.
can just like a
Great.
mantra
Yeah.
over. I wasn't even sure if he knew my name because that's right, because that's the only stuff he ever said to me. Not literally, obviously, you know what I mean, but that was a continued mantra
Yeah.
and theme that he just
That's amazing.
at me constantly. Nobody stops you but you. You can do
Probably
anything you
annoying
want.
at the
Believe in
time,
yourself.
but now it's, thank God he did.
I mean, I don't know if it was annoying. You sort of, again, when you're young, you don't, it's sort of just
Chatter.
chatter in the background as it is with, I think, young people and parents at that age and things like that. But what happens is that it soaks
Yeah.
in the background, right? And it
Mm.
soaks in to the point where you actually start to believe it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And obviously you did.
But you don't even think about it, though, that you believe it. It just becomes sort of the conscious way
It's a part of you.
or subconscious
Mhm.
way, rather, even more to the point, right? The subconscious way you act is that. In the same way as the opposite is true with parents and children. A parent that says to their children, you're stupid, you're dumb, you'll never amount to anything, right? That has the same effect
Mhm.
upon a child in later years,
Mhm.
and those are the messages that begin to form their sense of who they are and their sense of self-worth and their sense of self-esteem
Yeah.
and things like that. So I was lucky enough to have somebody that was on the right side of the coin,
Yeah.
right? Thankfully, thank
Mhm.
God, right?
Yeah.
That delivered the right kind of message to me. And plus, my father also was a very independent person as well. My father, as soon as he could jump ship and open up his own business and be his own boss and all that, he did.
Wow.
Right. So he understood the sort
Yeah.
of like, that's where he came from
Yeah.
kind of
That's a
background
great example though to
as
have.
well.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Early entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah.
it was fantastic. I couldn't ever have asked
Great
for anything
example.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't have that growing up. My dad was always kind of old school. Get a job, work there for 40 years, get a
Yeah.
pension. I'm like, Dad, pensions don't exist anymore. That's not
Yeah.
a thing, you
Yeah,
know?
it sounds like my mom.
Yeah, we didn't have any entrepreneurs in the family or any. But once I got to college and started kind of finding my place, I started meeting other entrepreneurs, business people. I was like, oh, you have it. Whatever this is, I didn't have the
Yeah.
words for it. But when you see that growing up and you have that spark, like, oh, I can just do what I want. Rather than going and working for other people forever and just being like really upset with my life, I can just create my own thing. And that's just what a wonderful gift that you had that at such an early age.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And in fact, the funny thing is that when you have that growing up and you see that, the concept and idea of going to work for somebody else becomes abhorrent.
It's hard to go back.
In a way. Well,
Yeah.
you don't go there, period. It's the concept of, what do you mean punch a time clock and somebody telling me what to do all day,
Nah.
and reviews and performance reviews
Right.
and and then what? And then you're 60 and they give you gold watch and kick you out on your
Yeah.
butt and this, and then you're
And then you get to go live your life. You
you
rent
know?
an RV and then you go live your life at 60, you know?
Oh, right. That's when you can take a break.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and that's the other thing, the concept of that, living your life when you're sitting, I never, that never
Ridiculous.
appealed to me. I lived my life. I wanted to live my life every single day
Absolutely.
Yes.
of my life. And then plus also, like we've been talking about, for me, there was no division of work and leisure time and social time. It's
Your work was your social time.
It's all one, wrapped into,
I can relate to that. So
everything
can you.
wraps around. Work is social. Social is work. Leisure, it's always one and the same. It's not a job. It's a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
style, I suppose, if you want to call it something. It's closer to a
Yeah.
lifestyle, if you
Even
want to.
social can turn into creative as well.
It
It
does.
That's my time turns into creative time, social. It mixes business, everything. It kind of crosses all those boundaries. It
Yep.
blurs it a bit.
Yep. Yep.
You
Yeah.
saw me last night. We went to a music release party, music video release, and I had clients and I had these people, and we're bringing people together and
Yeah.
we're introducing. And it's just, like you said, it's a lifestyle. And I've been different times in my life outside of music, and I miss that. I miss that social aspect of seeing
Mhm.
the same group of people, catching up with people. When you're an accountant, you just don't really have that. You kind of, you do your job, you go home, you watch the same TV, you eat relatively the same food, you wake up and you do it the next day. Like, I can't imagine that.
And we can't. And again, we say that there's nothing wrong with
No.
that, right? I mean, just to sort of,
In almost a way, I envy that because it's like it's simpler and it's nice. But I'm tortured by I could do this, I could do that,
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, also not to diminish the value of hard work
nothing
coming
replaces
up.
it.
Well, just the experience of working for somebody else and putting in the time and doing the thing, whatever it is, you can take that, and once you kind of jump ship and do your own thing, now you have experience to pull from. Whereas nowadays it seems a lot of younger cats are just like, I'm that. I'm a CEO. I'm a life coach. And you're 20. You're 22, and what kind of life experience do you really have? And I think
You can
that
have life experience. You have a gift when you're 22. There's something to be
I'm
said to be
not. I'm
young.
not, definitely not trying to crap all over that.
Listen, grumpy old men.
Yeah, but I do think there's extreme value in putting in the work and knowing what
Absolutely.
it's like in the real world, and that you don't always get immediate satisfaction, and sometimes you got to put in years.
you never get immediate satisfaction.
That's what it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
At least not for the good things.
the things I've learned and discovered, at least for me, is that if you get any satisfaction at all, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, take what you can get
Mm-hmm.
and be happy for it, because most people don't get much of anything. Most people go through their lives, they work at jobs they don't necessarily like. They are trapped in them for whatever reasons, economic reasons. I have to provide for my family,
Right.
things like that. Um, and then there's people who also just want to do that. Each person is different. Everybody has their own level of happiness and what makes them happy, or
Yeah.
or what they want to do, to earn money and things like that. I know I have a lot of friends who are more than happy to show up at 9, leave at 5, punch the time clock, go home. All they want to do is
Collect the paycheck.
make a paycheck, because they want to go home and play with their kids and hang with their wives and go, play ball on the weekends and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what drives their life, not
Yeah.
necessarily work.
Sure.
Although, you've still got to do that these days, right? But
Yeah, you do.
it's a lot of it, I think, comes down to is where do you derive your life satisfaction from? A lot of people derive it out of work, and a lot of people derive the happiness and the satisfaction out of everything outside of work. I mean, I know for me that the longer I go through doing this, 32 years now,
Wow.
when I was in my late 20s and my whole life was in the studio, even in my 40s. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This was my whole life. And the older I get, the more I begin to realize that, you know what, in a lot of ways, no, your life is actually everything that's going on outside of
Aha.
the room with no windows and no clock.
Got
The
it.
shift.
Well,
When
the
when did that
shift in-
when did that sort of start dawning on you?
Well, throughout the years, I mean, it isn't something that is, like you wake up with the revelation of it one day, but one
Mhm.
day it dawns on you, hey, it would be nice to have a family,
Mm-hmm.
to have kids and this kind of thing. Maybe there's, that's something I would like to do with my life, or a goal I would like to achieve. In other words, you get older, so the things that are important to you in life shift a little, as they do as you go through life. You get closer to the middle portion, the 50-yard line of life, as they say, than you are sort of back on the 20-yard line.
Right.
And When you get to a certain age, you also have to realize you're already sort of past the 50-yard line of life, and you begin to look at other things in a different way.
Yeah.
Once I mean, I've already passed the 50-year-old mark, right, for myself at least. And once you realize, okay, I've hit 50 and I've gone beyond 50 years of age, you have to look at it and realize I'm already on the downside of life. Right, when you really examine it, because for me to even be on the 50-yard line of life means I got to live to be 100 years old. And what are the chances of that happening?
Mm.
Not great. So you have to sort of look at it and go, wow, you know what? Time's running out, man. And if you want to achieve these other things,
Then you shift your priorities, sort of.
yeah, you have to begin to shift your priorities in different areas and things like that. There isn't necessarily always a tomorrow,
So,
right?
question, what are your priorities now compared to when you were 25?
A lot of them are the same. A lot of them are different in many ways. One of my main priorities these days is just try to be happy and content each day, to wake up each day and be thankful I got to wake up that day. I didn't really think about that too much when I was 35 years old.
It didn't occur to you that you might not wake up.
Nah, you're immortal.
Yeah.
And you're going to live forever, right? When you're
Yeah.
at that age. And again, as you progress further on in your life, you realize that, again, like I say, time begins to, if you count time and want to look at it in that way, it's hard for people to examine it, right? Because people go, what do you, right? They got to sort of embrace their own mortality, which is a scary thing for a lot of people to do, right? But
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mike, about embracing your own mortality?
Things come up.
Like what?
What we're talking about with priority shift. I think I put so much into work, like work. And at one point, something just kind of, and again, it's not just like one day. It's over this period of time where you're trying to figure out what that is in the back of your head that's calling and saying, hey, you might want to start taking advantage of some of the benefit of your hard work and see the world, or maybe go to that party, or go see or sit down and have some coffee with a friend and catch up, and
Spend time with your family.
spend time with family and have a meal, and maybe pick up some skills that have nothing to do with what you're actually doing day in and day out. Read a book, go to a movie. I mean, I just started going to movies more after so many years of working in TV and film. And then I would never go to film, like never go to movies, because I was just like, whatever, I don't want to be around it. And then finally I'm like, yeah, this is actually not that bad.
I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I can't say anything bigger or different than what you've already said, Bill. It's sort of like just the priorities change, and you want more out of life than what you can only see. You spoke about this in a
Previous episode
where you see a certain amount of feet in front of you in the car, right?
Mhm.
It was Jack Canfield. And you just have to trust that the next step or the next whatever amount of feet ahead of you will kind of take you, but you can't see around the bend, but you have to be willing to go around the bend. And I think that's kind of where I've sort of hit a stride recently is life is I'm in the river and I'm going with it, and I just have to trust that it's going to take me to different places along the way, that those experiences are definitely beneficial, and I shouldn't be afraid of what that's going to bring. And I've been hiding from it for a long time. So one of the things is what we're doing with this podcast.
Not
Silly
anymore.
No, not anymore.
We're taking photos. We're doing Facebook
All
Lives.
kinds of
we're
stuff.
putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, not keeping that voice down.
Probably one of the most famous recording studios, worldwide. Everyone knows the Capitol building. It's so iconic.
Sure.
It's part of the Hollywood skyline. And you got to work there with Al Schmidt. For those who don't know, is just a legend. I think he's won more Grammys than anybody. By like a lot.
at this time, yeah, 22 or 23 of them.
So what was it like working at Capitol Studios?
It was great. I had a great time there. It was wonderful. Learned a lot, met a lot of people. Spent, I don't know, I think I probably spent about the shortest amount of time that anybody actually ever worked at the studio there. I was only there for 3.5 years from when I went in and until I left. But the time I was working there was fabulous.
Mhm.
Again, I got to start learning a lot of the things I wanted to learn when I came out here. Had to,
Big
re-
band.
had to record big band, orchestras, that kind of thing. A higher level of clientele, a higher, more available pool of people to learn from in terms of my own craft, right? Working with Al, when Al would come in to the studio back then for the 3.5 years I was there. Every time he would come in, he just worked with me, which was
Wow.
countless numbers of times, more or less, during those years.
Talk about a
And
tutelage.
well, and then when I left in '96, I left Capitol. The beginning, early '96, January or February of '96. He called me. Al reached out to me, right, and said, "Hey, I got this thing I'm doing. Why don't you come and help me with it?"
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, great. Let's go. Right on. Let's do it. And then that turned into me working with him 6 days a week for basically, the next 6 years or so, every single day on stuff. Again, can't even imagine the amount of things we worked on across those years. And yeah, so for me, in terms of like, doing this for a living, that's the equivalent of getting your PhD
Mhm.
in advanced studies,
Yeah.
as they say, in terms of working with him. But yeah, so all in all, I mean, it was probably, close to 9 years, 9, 10 years that I was with him consistently. Those back six, like I say, 6 days a week,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere here, every studio in town here to New York to Tokyo and
Very
everywhere. So, it was great. I enjoyed it. I learned a tremendous amount from him, learned a tremendous amount about what to do, learned a tremendous amount about what not to do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Al comes from a different school because of where when he learned how to do stuff. The thing you learn from him, or at least the thing I learned from him, is what you're not doing is as important or even more important as what you are doing
Right.
in many ways. Okay, that simplicity sometimes is the way to go,
Mhm.
right?
Just
And
because you can do it doesn't mean you have to.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And again, staying out of the way is how to sort of help people be able to express themselves and draw things out of them,
Right.
to sort of, again, quietly guide the whole craft, the whole ship, without even anybody realizing
That you're actually doing it.
that you're actually doing it.
From when you were done doing all of that till now, how have things changed for you?
In what way?
Life and the
Philosophically,
types of work and philosophically and just happiness.
More in terms of, what I want to derive out of my life more than anything. And again, in terms of work and in terms of all that stuff, in many ways, I couldn't be happier, right? I get to do what I enjoy doing, what I love doing. Hopefully I've been able to help and assist other people to achieve the things they wanted to with their music and their creations. And that is very satisfying for me. I didn't have to dig a ditch today. I didn't have to lay brick. I didn't have to solder bolts on the 80th story of some skyscraper under construction.
Yeah.
So, all things considered, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I've got a house. I'm able to keep a roof over my head and food on the table, and my family is all healthy and alive.
amen.
And so
Mhm.
I mean, what more could you really want? I mean, you
Yeah.
could want more, sure, but uh, you know, do you need more? That's the difference, right? Don't necessarily take more than you need, because then it
Yeah.
just becomes gluttony and greed, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, in terms of that kind of stuff, I couldn't be happier. Thank God every day.
Yeah.
I get to wake up today. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Again, by all comparison, house burns down, whatever, call the insurance company. Let's go to dinner. Car got stolen.
Fantastic perspective. Yeah.
Same thing. Well, to me, again, there isn't really any other perspective to have.
You are not the things that you own. Your story and who you are is bigger than the things around you. That will not change your personality, your true authentic self. You're not attached. You can shift, you can move. You're completely separate from all these things around you.
They're just things.
Yeah.
They're, at the end of the day, they're meaningless. Just items you can buy with money. That's it,
And some of them are fun and whatnot.
But they can all be replaced.
And
at the end of the day, they don't define who you are. Some people, but for me, they don't. They got nothing to do with who I am.
Yeah.
Or what I am. It's just, here's what I drive and here's where I live, and that's great. And, whatever, it's
la-di-da.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's not really, it's none of those things. It's not what anybody says they are. It's not what anybody tells you they are. It's not the things people own. It's none of those things that define who somebody is. It's what they do that defines who and what each person is as an individual. Talk is cheap.
Action.
Okay, all these things, and what you do is really the represent. You can communicate more with a simple action, than you can with a 300-page dissertation. In many ways, it's much more direct and is action talks, and BS walks, I suppose, as they say, right?
When you want to recharge or unplug and totally change what you're doing, getting out of the work mode or what have you, where do you find some other balance outside of normal life?
I go mow the lawn, because it needs to get done, and I like being outside and I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or work on the house or whatever I got to do around the house. That's, again, I find that satisfying. It's great to be able to do those kind of things and to accomplish things. And you can look at the stuff when it's done and have a sense of satisfaction and pride in the things you've accomplished. So I love doing that kind of stuff. Plus it makes the house nicer and better. And, be it whatever it is, you paint a room or any of those kind of things. People might not necessarily consider it relaxing, but I do.
Meditative in a way.
Well, yeah, in a certain way. I mean, to me, it's meditative in reverse. In other words, I don't really think about anything. Well, I suppose, I mean, I'm not really versed in meditation per se, but maybe, it is the same
Which
sort
is
of
that,
thing.
that you're not thinking about your anxieties and your worries and what you have to do. You're just painting a room.
I'm not thinking about anything.
Yeah, exactly. You can just kind
That's
of,
the
exactly.
beautiful part.
That's
Yeah.
meditative in my way, is that you're not thinking
Yeah.
about it except for just making this room better,
Right.
doing a good job, and just living in the moment and being present.
Yeah, I don't, and all the other stuff of life is gone at that point. I go ride my bike.
Yeah.
Take my bike out, go ride the bike, that kind of
He's
thing.
a wild man.
Same
Ladies,
thing.
watch out.
Not motorcycle.
Yeah, no, I know.
Schwinn. Yeah, okay. That I'm thwarting cars flying out of parking lots and driveways. all over the San Fernando Valley.
Watch out.
I'll go do that. That's great. Again, same thing. You just sort of empty out your head. And because literally you're only concerned with, trucks and people in their vehicles who are going to try and run you over. So that becomes pretty much the only thing you're really attuned to when you're doing that kind of stuff. And you feel great when you're doing it. When you're done, you feel great physically. You feel great mentally. I think, I think just not thinking about things is how you recharge. To me, simply, a lot of people is, I'll go take a nap for 4 hours. And that's, I don't, to me, the recharging is
You don't seem like someone who naps.
the unload. Oh, I do. Trust me. Okay. I'm no different than anybody. But as soon as I wake up, I'm right back out
You're
the
ready.
door doing what, I get itchy feet really quick. It's hard for me to sort of sit around and, there's always something to be done.
Yeah.
Right. And then I always feel guilty about it. I should be doing this and all that kind of thing. But to me,
So you're human.
well, in some driven.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm human, but I'm also driven. To keep moving forward,
Hmm.
which
I love it.
is the important thing. At least for me, I think in life is to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter what you just keep moving every inch, no matter how you get there. Claw your way on your knees,
Every day, one step.
crawl.
Yeah.
Just keep moving forward.
Just keep swimming.
Well, only because that way you're only ever looking in one direction forward and you're not looking backwards. It doesn't matter what's gone on behind you. It doesn't
Yep.
matter, right?
Yeah.
In many ways. Although,
Why are you laughing, Mike?
I always say, it's okay to look back once in a while, but don't stare.
you know what? It's good to look back only if there are things you need to fix.
Yeah.
Okay. That
makes
to me,
sense.
that's the only thing. Okay. An injustice that may have happened, something you may have done incorrectly. Okay. Maybe you wronged somebody in certain ways,
Gotta
Yeah.
make your amends.
or a situation wasn't the way it should have been, or right. So it's good to look backwards if you want to make sure that you repair anything that might need fixing back there. Only as a way to then enable you to turn around and concentrate fully on looking forward,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, it's the rest of it is sort of having a rope around your
Yeah.
back. Ooh, let's see.
This is
Airplane.
great
Getting
surround sound,
Hopefully-
movie effects,
Yeah, we're getting attacked right now.
LAPD
Well,
chopper.
As long as it's only the LAPD.
Mm.
Oh no, it's three planes. Wow,
attacking.
that's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see it.
No, because
They're literally
they're
side by
listeners.
side. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
there
no, you
I know.
guys. Sorry.
Well, there you go. There's another fine example of being able to deal with things as they come at you each
Yeah.
day and roll with it. Okay.
That's a beautiful.
Sometimes you get airplanes on the mics, and
just roll.
that's how it goes.
You just
So,
fly with it.
Pretty, yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. There you go.
and
So
on that note, like I think that we should just definitely say this, Bill. We're so grateful that you sat down with us, that
Oh yeah.
you took the time, and I think you have so many lessons to give. And if anything, it's just number one, keep it simple. That's really can solve a lot of your problems, and just do it. Whatever you're
Mhm.
thinking, just don't sit down and think about all the ways you can't do it. Just get up, one foot in front of it, and just show up. I love that.
yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. I do appreciate it. I don't know if I've got any, I don't claim to have any kind of insight. I don't know if I really have
You
any
do.
lessons or anything. Oh, no, I mean, what I have is what's worked for me.
Yeah.
And what's worked for me, it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. I'm just me, right? I'm the same as everybody else, just trying to figure it all out as I move forward, right? So if there's something that can help somebody, right? In other words, if my experience, which is usually gained through, life smashing you in the face and suffering, okay, if that can,
Cosmic 2x4s.
literally, if that can help someone else dodge the bullet, then I'm all for it. But I'm just trying to figure it out the best as I can, as much as anybody else is. The thing that I try to keep in front of me every day at this point is just the concept of being thankful each day. Thankful for where I am, thankful for the things I have, right? Thankful just to be alive each day,
So
that
powerful.
I get to wake up every morning and right, because if you don't get to wake up tomorrow, what does all the other stuff matter? It makes no difference what you can have the biggest house, the most amount of money, have a fleet of Mercedes Benz, Porsches, Ferraris in a driveway, and you know what? The day you don't wake up is the day they sell all that stuff, right? So it's irrelevant at the end of the day. Money is meaningless. It's only an illusion. It helps you pay for the things you need. I think at the end of all things, the sign of a successful person in life isn't necessarily how many steaks you have in the freezer or how many cars you have in the driveway, but more how many people show up at your funeral. Okay, because that's the sign of how many people you touched and how many lives you may have contributed to in a positive way, the people who show up to pay their respects and send you off with hopefully a party instead of some teary-eyed celebration, just get a couple kegs of beer and some vodka and let's dance kind of thing.
Sounds like you've already planned it out.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, why? It is what it is. So why get all bummed out?
Well,
We didn't do that when we were alive. Why do it
Yeah.
when you're off to the next cosmic adventure? Because who knows what's going to happen on that side of things either. No one knows. It is literally the next great adventure, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's it, Nicole. I just try to be thankful, try to be happy.
Yeah.
Make
You
the
seem
choice.
like a pretty happy person. We're so thankful for sharing your
yeah,
wisdom.
thank you so much for sitting down. Really appreciate it. So many cool insights. You may not see it, or I think you do.
You a humble man.
But you're awesome.
I suppose. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm again trying to
He's
be
like, yeah,
humble.
I'm kind of awesome, but
What do you do to be happy? I just go mow the grass.
Really. But I don't. Again, I think that the humility and all that kind of stuff again is right along with the simplicity of.
Right.
I'm just trying to be.
Yeah.
And be one with myself, be one with the world, be one with everybody in it. And I try to make the choice to be happy every day. And I think that's maybe the one thing that I've come to realize in my life, that happiness is a choice. It's not something that shows up in the mail. It's right. Ed McMahon doesn't knock on your door with a publisher's clearinghouse check. Okay. And it's not what people think or say. I'll be happy when my ship comes in. When I get this job, I'll be happy. When I move into this house, I'll be happy. Now, BS, man. You won't. You'll be the same miserable person you are now. Right. You'll just have a house or a car or whatever. It doesn't, right?
Yeah.
External materialistic things, anything external doesn't affect your happiness. Happiness is something you choose from within. You have to make the conscious decision to say, you know what, it doesn't matter what I have or don't have.
Yeah, just be happy now. And all those other things will come when I'm happy rather than the other way around.
Usually that's how it rolls. Yeah. Happiness has to show up first, and then all the other stuff comes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Love it.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Bill. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye. So there it was, episode 3 with Bill Smith. I love his simple, universal truths. Just these little nuggets. I feel like you could have a Bill Smith calendar,
Absolutely.
Or T-shirts or whatever. I woke up today. I'm happy. What else do you want? You know, you got to love that.
Love it.
He's kind of like our Yoda of the recording industry.
Definitely.
Just that no-nonsense New York wisdom.
Absolutely. He's definitely not stereotypical with that very East Coast perspective. He's not in your face, that kind of thing. And again, he knows who he is. Doesn't let everything sway him.
Yeah, I think our listeners will definitely get a couple of nuggets of knowledge from that. What I admire most about Bill is that he burned the boats. We talk about that a lot. He had no money.
Absolutely.
No friends, no job, and he just moved to LA because he wanted to record orchestras and just get more experience and grow as a human, as an engineer.
Yeah.
And he just did it because it's a great adventure. How many times in our life can we really just say we took the leap? We need more of that in our life.
Yeah, and it comes back again to what we started off with about the knowledge of thyself. And walking that path, knowing that it's going to work out, regardless of where you go. I don't know how it's going to come together, but I know it is. So if you're going through these kinds of things right now, consider how you feel about where you want to go and what's in your way of your achievement, whatever that goal is.
So Mike, first question, what's getting in your way?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff in my way.
All right. Well, maybe just one thing, maybe.
Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
I'm in my way a lot of the time, overthinking things. Boom. Bottom line. I may know who I am. I still tend to fall into overthinking.
So you default into thinking with your head versus thinking with your heart.
And then right when I go into heart, the door's open. Always. How about yourself?
One thing, I feel like I want to copy that that answer exactly. One thing that's standing in my way is, I think not being heart-centered. I think I relate and I downshift to sarcasm and snarkiness, and it's kind of this veil of, well, screw you and rah, I'm tough and rah. And instead of just saying how I feel, like, hey, you said that thing that really hurt my feelings, like, please don't do that, Instead, I'll just be passive-aggressive or snarky.
Yeah.
And I think that affects my relationships, that I would love to every day live from an authentic place.
Yeah.
from a heart-centered place. And I feel like right now I'm just having gleams of that, or just like little moments in time when we work together and we're
Yeah.
working through our stuff. We have that. When we talk to Bill, we feel that. When we
Yep.
talk to Alex Awana, we feel that.
Yeah.
So, that's the whole goal of this podcast is, to find how we can live our true authentic selves.
It's a hard concept to grasp at first. It was for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about yourself, but for me,
I was pretty much perfect at the day one.
Right.
I aligned my chakras
How could
within
I
5
question that?
seconds of yoga, okay?
They're already aligned by default, right?
Yeah.
Of
My third
course.
eye is so open right now.
Right. Well, it really is just a matter of, for me, getting out of my way. And once that happens, I remember why I actually wanted to do that thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's why we wanted to do this podcast, or why I want that future that I want. So, if the concept is like knowing who you are, or what are your barriers, whatever they may be, it's really, sometimes you got to go within. You actually always have to go within. And then you realize that thing wasn't even an obstacle.
Mm.
It was just something that you needed to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And then the freeness of coming through it on the other side of it I don't even know how to sum up the feeling other than it's just freedom.
Yeah. Getting into your heart definitely opens
Absolutely.
the doors.
Absolutely.
And helps you get out of your way. And we'd love to hear from you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us at Mental Notes Pod, #Mental Notes Pod as well, or find us on our website at mentalnotespodcast.com. But we'd love to hear what's getting in your way of truly becoming yourself.
And how you can change that.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you are into this podcast and you love what you're hearing, we would appreciate it greatly if you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, give us a 5-star review. Let us know.
And on that note, I'm Mike Barami.
And I'm Nicole Slater.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Notes Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye.